Hi, I'm Mark Adams with Northwest Queens. Today's topic is going to be building a cover for a beehive for a northern climate environment. We're talking about a 16¼ inch by 20-inch box that we're going to fit. The dimensions of the cover are going to run a little wider because I put a trim around it to provide a drip edge, and I need to make it wider than the box so that we don't get a dimensional tight fit on boxes that might be a little bit oversized. So from side to side we're looking at an 1/8 inch extra on each side, so we're running 16½, and in the other dimension, the 20-inch dimension, we're going to be at 20½. And the reason I add a 1/2 inch is so that we can have an adjustment for this vent. We've got a screened off air vent. The screening is optional. I've run covers with and without it. Every once in a while you get a hive that wants to use the upper entrance more than the bottom entrance, so you could cork it up for a limited time until you train them to use the bottom entrance, and then you could remove that. I've had some hives get robbed through the top entrance, so I've opted to just put a screening in there, and then I remove it on starter finisher colonies or hives that you don't want to have a large death rate of drones that accumulate on your excluder because they have no exit path because you're screened in. So there's a need for it for robbing and a primary entrance, which are undesirable. Okay, the sides are made from a 3/4 inch wide. The inner frame sides are a 3/4 inch wide material that's 3/4 by 1.5 inches, which is standard stock ripped off a 2x3 or 2x4 material. You don't want to go under 3/4 inch for the reason that there is a little movement on top of the box, and there's no need to have less coverage than 3/4 inch if we have movement. So back to the underside of the bees, we've got an air vent, we've got plywood that is 1/4 inch plywood, and we dado in halfway into the 3/4 inch to provide a nice strengthening, rigidizing. You can't seem to find flat plywood these days. It all seems to be fairly curly, and if you dado in around this inner frame halfway and build a fixture to hold it square and put it on a flat table while you're using your air stapler or equivalent, you'll get a very square, very flat surface. And you could have started with a curly piece of plywood, and it'll be held just where you want it. Here we're using 1/4 inch plywood. Watch when you buy it. It could be mislabeled at the big box stores. I had to take some back because it turned out to be interior product. I thought I was saving some money, but you want to use an exterior grade plywood. So as far as dimensions go, we created a backside cavity of 1 inch. That's going to accept a piece of rigid insulation. Measure the insulation. It was under 1 inch by a slight amount, so you need to create the right size cavity here. The dimension on this side, off of the 1.5 inch stock, you want to have at least a 1/4 inch, less than 3/8 inch. You don't want too large of a cavity so you get excessive burr comb, but you want a cavity big enough where you could feed a pollen patty and not have a death rate, squished bees, or a wobbly cover. You want something that fits nice and gets the job done. Okay, all the joints are picture frame type joints in the corners. This outer frame, the drip edge frame, is made from a cedar fencing, low-cost fencing. Again, when you staple, use a fixture, put it on a flat surface so that you get a quality job when you're done. Or the top side, you've got a nice smooth top surface. Taking a look at one of the units that's ready to put the metal finished skin on, you've got the insulation, and we're ready for metal skinning. Okay, here it is, all finished with the metal skin on it. What I use here is your flashing, roof flashing. You can get it at the big box stores. This happens to be 20 inches wide. We're exactly at 24 inches on the cut here, and then it bends over the edges, forming a nice, almost even overhang around the perimeter. I bought a metal brake that I've had for years from Grizzly. It does a real good job of bending real sharp angles on the metal, which, you know, if you're after a good look when you're done, it might be worth, you could either bend it over with a block of wood, or you could use a metal brake to give you a good sharp angle. So when you're done, you have a product that looks like this. You ask yourself, well, you know, why is that much different than what I'm using now? If you look at the warmth and the moisture movement within a beehive, you get a lot of moisture that rises and hits the top underside of the cover. If you insulate that cover right through here, this surface remains quite warm, and a warm surface is not going to condensate moisture. If you had just a regular 3/4 inch pine or cedar with snow on it, or below freezing temperatures outside, it would be quite cool underneath there, and that would condense moisture. If you peek into one of my hives in the springtime after a cold snap, you will not see the top frames all drippy with water. They will be normal. You might see a little bit of water around the far edges, far from where the bees are. You're trying to avoid the rain down effect on the bees. So now we've moved the coolest area of the hive to the sides of the deep boxes, and that's where your internal moisture that doesn't vent out through your normal vents resides, and it drips down, keeping it away from the bees and preventing any sort of death related to the rain effect. Well, that's about it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You can reach me at mark@northwestqueens.com, and I'm not selling a product. I'm merely trying to recommend ideas that I'm sure there's many beekeepers out there that'll take what they see here and carry it a step further. Let me know what you think. Have a great day.